Hi. Welcome back. We're back. This could be a while. Your mind has the ability of going through different stages in life and becoming different personas in a way. You can have different personalities within you and still be you. Still maintain the essence of you. Some personalities can persist along the way and some other ones can fade away. For example, I'm a much different person now than I was 10 or even 15 years ago. My personality is a combination of things, not just my essence or my tendencies, but my mentality, my experiences, my thoughts, my logic, my environment, my willingness to change and to learn new concepts and ideas, etc. are all playing factors. Therefore, I'm a much different person now than I was back then. What you practice will be what you will become. If you practice being negative and finding excuses for your problems and failures, then that will become part of your personality. That will be second nature to you. However, if you practice being positive and seeking for solutions instead of excuses, you will get good at it and it will become part of your personality. At the same time, my personality varies depending on my state of mind. I am a certain way when I am upset, or a certain way when I'm anxious or depressed, or when I'm working versus when I'm in a party. Or I am also a completely different person when I'm in a good mood versus when I'm in a bad mood. So if you're going to be acting in different ways depending on your mood, you can also manipulate the way you're going to act in public. That is where masking is necessary and useful for everyone, not just neurodivergent. It can be perceived as harder for us, but if you practice it, like I said, it becomes second nature. You don't need to cry 24/7 when you're sad, for example. Unless, of course, you are going through a very hard emotional situation, and in those situations, it's best to stay alone and seek privacy. Stay with people you're intimate with versus going to work and crying in public. There will be certain moments in life where we will all need some time to mourn. However, we're talking about common mood changes here. One can be upset and start punching walls or cursing in public. Not that I never done that before. However, that doesn't mean that everyone must act in that way when upset, or that is the only way to get your steam out. If we practice different behaviors during certain unforeseen changes of emotions or moods, those behaviors will feel natural and appropriate over time. For example, instead of yelling at the top of your lungs when someone or something upsets you, you walk away from the stressful situation, take a few deep breaths, and collect your thoughts in private. It might seem hard to do at first, but if you practice it, your mind eventually will have that reaction by default. Don't beat yourself up if you lose control here and there. I still get ticked off with certain situations, actions or people to this day, and still act very immaturely till this day. After the fact, I play the situation over and over in my head and try to come up with different ideas of how I could have reacted to the situation differently and had a different outcome. Also, when I was a teenager dealing with depression, I went through a phase of hanging out with gangsters, which I have actually really crazy stories of that time coming up soon. I will start filming those once I start getting more supporters and patrons. So my personality at the time was more like a gangster boy, since I wouldn't really get along with the girls. This was actually a huge difference of how my personality was when I was in private school and all my friends were nothing but preppy kids. In addition to that, I was very insecure in that time, which also affected my personality and confidence. Despite me being different personas at different stages of my life, I still learned that I had to adapt certain models of behaviors for certain social situations. Like for example, I would speak to my elders differently than I would to my peers. And I would also notice my voice pitch naturally changing when I would speak to people I didn't know over the phone and stuff like that. However, I really struggled to learn more complex social models at the same rate as my peers because no one ever really explained it to me. If I would have known someone that would have known what I know today and would have explained it to me like this, it would have clicked. I would have understood the reasons behind masking and diplomacy. But because I wouldn't even begin to understand the reasons why I was so different to others and why my logic was so unusual, how was I going to understand anything else? You can't expect to understand advanced biochemistry if you don't even know basic biology. I am the same exact person since I can remember. However, I now think and act 180 degrees different. Was I more autistic then than I am now? In the eyes of society and even some medical professionals, yes, I might even be considered a recovered autistic. Because according to the criteria of noticeable behaviors that they would be expecting were 100% more obvious when I was young. Unfortunately, when I was young, developments in the field were not like they are today. And they had not reached many countries yet. And to this day, information is very outdated in most countries. So to society, I was just weird or a brat. But if you ask me, I would say no. I am just as autistic as the moment I was when I was born. Just as much as I am of the female sex, and I have not recovered from that yet. So autism is the name or term that was given to the spectrum that my type of brain belongs to. Pretty much people fitting the criteria. People hear the word autism and they automatically think it's something bad, something to feel sorry for, but the neurotypicals have a spectrum too. People don't understand is that the neurotypical brain, it's a type of brain that is wired in a certain way, but they are all slightly different, just like the autistic spectrum. An autistic brain is just a different type of brain that is wired differently than, like, you know, just connects and goes through differently than the neurotypical brain. But it's so pretty much which deviates from the neurotypicals, and it's been perceived as abnormal, as wrong, as defective, etc., etc., etc. for many different reasons, but mainly it's the inability of people to understand the potentials of nature and the human brain. Us humans, we continue to make the same mistakes throughout history. We believe we know it all. Everything has been said and done. We are larger than life, and we're just a bunch of idiots. And we have no idea. The more we learn, the more we realize we know nothing at all. When we don't understand something, when something is alien to us, what do? We judge it, we attack it, or we try to eliminate it. If it's a conflict to our ability of understanding, we see it as a problem, and we either try to fix it or eliminate it, but we will not accept it because it's not normal. Which has created a very toxic and oppressed world for those in the autistic spectrum or ADD spectrum, as well as many neurodivergent groups. Most of us have had to work harder than the rest, despite all the mistreatment, the oppression and mistreatment, in order to prove ourselves that we are worthy of human compassion and acceptance. Masking can seem very hard to do when you go through so much oppression and no one teaches you things in a way that will make sense to you. So my conclusion and advice regarding masking will be that you don't have to do it if it's not something that you believe is worth it for you. Just like you don't learn another language just because you're visiting another country. Most countries are usually very welcoming with tourists, and you should try to find ways to communicate with foreigners. We just need a more inclusive world. You also don't have to have a lot of friends in order to be happy. Most people that have lots of friends hardly stay friends forever or recycle them often. Just like you don't have to work at a place where social or masking demands are very high, you also don't need the world's approval or liking. No matter who or how you are, there will always be someone out there that will love you and accept you for who you are. I know that many of us are working very, very hard to make this a more inclusive and more open-minded and more accepting world, but Rome was not made in a day, and this is definitely still a work in progress that will take some time. Most of us in the spectrum, and even some neurotypicals, don't fully understand or grasp the importance and benefits of such skill. Not letting people know what's going on inside your mind is the best shield and social tool you can have. I am very hopeful that with the help of social media, we will be able to make great improvement in the next 10 years. Till then, I really encourage those that really want to be part of society like myself, because I know that no one is perfect, and I have learned to accept society's flaws even when society doesn't accept mine. I learned to ride with the waves instead of going against the current. And I strive to grow as a person. I appreciate any challenge that helps me grow mentally, spiritually, and physically in a positive way. That is my take on life. That is what drives me. However, that doesn't mean that everyone has to like what I like. I believe that everyone should live in the way that makes them happy. As long as your happiness and actions are not someone else's misery, you can do as you please. No one's happiness or success should come at the expense of others. Never forget that what you sow, you reap sooner or later. So when should masking be used, right? There are many situations where masking can be very useful to help you navigate through certain social situations without sparking any wrong ideas on, other people. It all depends on the stakes and how much stress are you willing to handle. And some situations can be extremely stressful, even for neurotypicals. For me, any average social situation makes me nervous because I almost always fail miserably. I am very extroverted, and it's almost impossible for me to go under the radar. And since I always end up saying a little bit too much, since people are usually critical, I am usually hated more than loved. And one starts losing faith after a while. So this links back to my personality topic. Depending on what type of personality you have, will be the type of masking you will be learning. And depending on what situation you will be in or you will be putting yourself into will be the level of stress and exhaustion that you will have to handle. Like I mentioned before, I don't feel that all types of masking are exhausting because the social situations I usually engaged in are usually not very stressful. I try not to associate with people that I know are not going to be a good fit to my personality, which that really helps. This is what we call an accommodation. There are so many different types of masking. I even think there's like levels of it. Level 1 will be like managing appropriate expressions that will fit the expected reaction, like laughing even when you didn't get the joke and expect that it was in fact a joke. I laugh when was funny.
Yeah.
Like I laugh when
laugh. When it's not even funny.
But I do that. I do like if somebody says something like I have no idea what to say. I'm like but I know they're trying to be like charming, so I'm like
Okay, we get it.
There are so many different types of masking. I even think there's like levels of it. Level 1 would be like managing your expressions so that they can fit expected reactions. Like when you laugh at a joke, even when you didn't get the joke, and expect it was in fact a joke. Or acting very excited when somebody shares good news with you, or very sad when it's bad news, etc. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. God damn, I learned it from observing an echolalia. Echolalia.
Please help me.
Okay. So then we have the masking of hiding our emotions. This would be considered like level 2 masking. So acting unemotional even when you are actually emotional, or sad, or having a bad day, but you can't express it during certain social settings, like at work, like in the middle of work, which God knows I have done before. Or at your friend's wedding, for example.
Oh God, I'm gonna download.
Or staying collected when someone upsets you and you just want to slap a bitch. Oh, that's a hard one. That is pro status masking right there. Or having a certain like voice or a character when you have to speak to high demand clients, for example. This type of masking, it has been a hard one for me to fully nail, because fully nailed for my business because of the speaking skills. I speak very comfortably and confidently at times, especially when speaking about something that I know very well. However, if the person that I'm speaking to makes me even a little bit nervous, I lose my flow completely. I start stuttering. I forget the words or the correct terms that I needed to explain what I'm trying to say. It's really bad. It's like terrible. It's really bad. I can be a mess at times, and instead of being clear with the customer, I end up confusing them because I couldn't find the right words to explain what I was trying to say. So it all depends on every particular situation that you choose to put yourself into. You can live a completely stress-free, low social demand life if you want to, and not deal with any of this. But if the ends justify the means, you can 100% learn how to mask properly. And like I said, if you practice it, it will become second nature. Second nature. In the next videos, we will be talking about different ways of masking, the norm and why it's important, and how I figure out a way to still be myself while still following the norm at the same time. So this is all for now, guys. I really hope you support, and I have a lot of like really more fun content coming up, really crazy stories, but like I said, I do need time to upload them, and doing this whole, creating this context takes a while, it takes a lot out of my time, but if you support me and share, that will really help me to gather the funds to create more content. So please don't forget to subscribe, to share, and to give it a thumbs up, and we'll be seeing you on the next channel. Thank you for supporting. Did I say channel? I'm tired. And see you on the next episode. Peace.